So what does it mean to live in the end result? That is a question I get all the time because I teach Helene Hadsel's works. As you know, my name's Carolyn, or you might not know, my name's Carolyn, and I have been blessed with maintaining her legacy along with Tag Powell's and Judith Powell's. Now, they were of the era, they were after Neville Goddard, who is famous for the saying, live in the wish fulfilled. And Helene liked Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote a book of a similar title, If Life's a Game. No, now I'm getting books mixed up. I was thinking of These Are the Rules to Being Human. Anyway, there's too many books that I have read on these subjects. But Helene liked Florence Scovel Shinn. I didn't find any of Neville Goddard's work in her library, but that doesn't mean she didn't read them because she was a frequent member of her local library. So I'm sure that what she had remaining in her library was just a fraction of what she read and what she owned, because I'm sure she gave books away, she traded books, all kinds of things. A lot of people do that, especially when they have limited space for that kind of thing. And she was a master at living in the end result. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with, because the number one thing people want to manifest is money. And they said, well, I want to be rich. And I can't live in the end result because what am I supposed to do? Go and spend all kinds of money that I don't have. Then I'm in credit card debt and I'm panicking but I have the fancy purse and I just went on the fancy vacation and my hair looks good, but I can't buy food this week. Yeah, that's not living in the end result. The idea of living in the end result is to set your nervous system so when the manifestation does occur, it feels natural and normal. So if your current nervous system is accustomed to poverty or struggle or being single when you want to be in a relationship, what is your comfort zone? The idea of living in the end result is prepping your nervous system so that the new reality already feels normal before it appears. So when you start thinking of it not as living in the wish fulfilled, which sounds dreamy, which was perfect language for the time Neville taught, but it was 90 years ago, 80, 90 years ago he was teaching. So it's a different verbiage. We have different communication styles now, and more people are aware of these things. So when you live in the end result, you want to get your nervous system ready. So I decided to do this month's live stream and manifesting chat on what it actually looks like to live in the end result, because I really started to embody this for one particular goal that I had about 6 weeks ago. I don't know why it felt like something clicked at that time. And one of my goals is to grow my business. A normal, natural goal for an entrepreneur, right? It's not some crazy, unrealistic goal. I own a business. I would like it to be bigger. Most entrepreneurs would like to grow their business to a certain level, or one that they haven't even imagined at this time. So I really started thinking, if my business tomorrow became 10 times its size, how would I handle what's on my current plate? and I panicked because I thought, what the heck am I going to do with my bookkeeping, all the projects I have outstanding, all the things that are sitting on my desk, all these different things, the filing. I had a filing pile in my office that has sat there for a year. I thought, well, if I manifest my business 10 times the size, akin to winning the lottery, right? A large sum of money hitting me instantly, I would be a mess because none of these things are in order. And if my business really was 10 times the size that it is, I'd be on top of my books. I would be on top of the projects on my desk. I wouldn't have files piled up. And a lot of these things would be cleared. So I thought, you know what? That's what we're going to start with. We're going to assume that the business will be 10 times the size. So I need to catch up on these projects. And at first it was a bit overwhelming. The accounting took me a week because I had been taking files, all my receipts. Oh, thanks for thinking these aren't prescription glasses. I have a very good lighting setup. They are, you can see the glass in them. And they're bifocals because I'm at that age. They're Dresden Vision, by the way. And they're recycled plastic from Australia. And they're modular, so I can pop the arms on and off, and I can change the lenses. So if you watch all my videos, I have different colors all the time. So I have like 10 colors, and I just change the lenses. Anyway, living in the end result. So I thought, I've got to deal with this. So I poured out, I had already been taking all my receipts. I had this bad habit of taking my receipts and chucking them into a liquor store box. And then at the end of the year, dealing with all my files and doing my expense reports, which I hated. And a couple of years ago, I filed my income taxes December 30th. And the accountant said, you can't do that. And this year I was better. I got my files to him in July, a little bit better. And we filed my taxes in September. Okay. So I'm a whole quarter better. Then I'm like, okay, that's still not that good. I need to do even better. So I thought, okay, if I'm to really stay on top of my books, it's only going to take 1 second more. Instead of just chucking it into into a liquor store box, actually placing it into the expense folder or the actual folder of whatever it is. It only takes a couple of seconds more, and then I won't have to do this, because I really realized when it took me a week to do that, I lost a week of writing. And the problem was I couldn't find some receipts. Some of the reports weren't right. I was missing things. Things were stapled together. Things were shoved in the wrong places. It was an absolute mess. So it really got me on the roll of, okay, imagine I now have, it took me a week. Imagine if I have 10 times. Now, I don't think my accounts actually go up. My paperwork will actually go up 10 times when my business is 10 times. But for the example, to get myself motivated, I said, oh my God, if this was 10 times bigger, I could lose 10 weeks of work, assuming everything was even. That's a waste of time. I need to be writing. I need to be focused on connection. I need to be focused on helping people. I need to be focused on teaching people. And I'm not going to be doing that if I'm sorting receipts. So the first thing I did was get my accounting in order. The second thing I did was get all that filing away, and I cleared out my filing cabinet because there was some really old files there. Now, legal files and things I keep, like I own a business, so there's certain things that have to be kept. But there was account files from projects that were 12 years old. I haven't looked at them. I'll probably never look at them again. Gone, right? Things like that. I spent a couple of days shredding paper, the bags that went out to the recycle bin. Cleared. So not only is my stuff now organized, I have freed up that energy in the room, if you like feng shui. So now that energy, you know what it's like coming into an office that's organized? This is clearer. This is more calm. I have space at my desk. I'm not worried about knocking things over or pushing things off to the side. I used to do that sometimes. I would just be so busy. I'd just throw things on my desk and I'd come to do a live stream and I'm like, oh, and I'm pushing papers off to the side. Like you don't see them, but I feel them. That's energy. So I cleaned up that because I thought, oh, if I watch television or a movie and we see a multimillionaire and we see their office, what does their desk look like? It's always spotless, like they're not doing any work. Now, I know it's television. I know it's not real. But the idea was, if I'm on top of all of my projects and my filing and my accounting, I don't have junk on my desk. Now, my office is extremely small, so I do have a lot of things on my desk, but it's not piled high with stuff that hasn't made it back to its home yet. Okay? I mean, I have my nice cup of tea here. I always have a tea. This one I got when I went to You Can Do Magic, taught by Robert O'Hara in Boulder, Colorado. If you know, you know. So the energy shift, and it has taken me weeks. And now the next big project I'm doing, because I'm trying to time it with a book release, is my Contest Queen website has sat. So in 2023, I had a problem with, I have a whole section, now it's coming back. I had a whole section on articles written about me, because not only am I blessed with maintaining Helene Hadzel's legacy, one of the reasons that she asked me to do it is because I'm also a contester. So you might remember Helene Hadzel was famous for winning every prize she ever desired, including a fully furnished home, because she entered sweepstakes contests and giveaways. And so did I, and I wrote a book on it. And that's how I came to interview her on my podcast, because I had a podcast before it was cool. Oh, I wish I kept that up. But I couldn't figure out how to do it by myself, and I was interviewing people, and then some of the interviews were terrible. And recently, a gentleman named Jay Victor, he has a podcast called The Official Rules of Sweepstakes Podcast, and he figured out how to do it. But I digress. I had her on my show at the time. You can go listen to that interview on YouTube. Again, I was a terrible interviewer. This is how we learn skills. We do stuff. We are terrible, and we improve as we go along. I get a lot of complaints on that video, but part of it is they don't like how I don't control the volume, but they don't understand that back in 2008, we each called in on landlines and talked over the phone into some computer database that doesn't exist anymore. A platform that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Anyway, so because I understood what Helene did, both mindset wise and hobby wise, and I had written books, so I was also an author. That's one of the reasons she asked me to maintain her legacy, because her children and two of her children had predeceased her. Her son wasn't interested, and her grandchildren weren't interested in keeping up her books. And so that's why she asked me to do it, because I was kind of on a similar track to her with the hobby and the books, both of which she did. And I was teaching how you had to think you were lucky before you were lucky, which was the mindset she was teaching. Anyway, so I dealt with all of the stuff in my office, and I started to feel better. And I got on the Contest Queen website, and I had all these articles, and there was there's something called incidental inclusion. So if there's an article, I had these articles on my website, but they included copywritten pictures. So I had to take all the pictures off. So I didn't want to deal with all these individual. I had like 50 articles. So I just took the whole page off my website, and I was so busy with so many other things, and I didn't have the budget to redo my website. I just left it. And now that I'm coming up to the 20th anniversary of my first book, the 20th anniversary of my newsletter, and I just passed the 20th anniversary of my website. This is the 20th anniversary. It makes me feel like I've been doing this a hot minute. And I'm coming out with my third sweepstakes book. I thought I better have the new website because we're talking about redoing it. I might even get a new logo. So I've been sitting and remapping. I actually have the map. I showed it on another live stream I did. So it was clean until I started working on it. I've literally remapped the whole site, and I'm going through page by page, and I'm redoing it so that when that new book comes out and new people come, it's a cleaner site. Now it's a bit mucky right now because I'm just using placeholders, and there might be a few 404 pages in there as I'm literally moving stuff around. And boy, oh boy, boy, what a big job. So what I'm doing is I'm doing all the remapping and making sure all the content's correct. We're going to double check all the links, and then the webmaster is going to go in and ensure the functionality and make it look pretty. And I'm thinking of actually I need a new photographer because the woman that was doing my headshots for the last 4 years no longer does it. She's not in her studio now. But I'm thinking of, instead of having the pink glasses with the fuchsia shirt, I'm going to go green. Like, that's why I said you chuckled about the glasses, but I have all the colors. And because they're modular, actually, when I do my corporate headshots, so I don't have any glare, I actually do put the frames on without the lenses. So my headshots are really good, but I can't read without them. So I've got all your comments here on the screen, and I've got another screen over here with the Instagram feed. And I wouldn't be able to read any of it without my glasses. So I actually have 2 lights up here, because if I had the recommended light here that all the YouTubers recommend, they're like, oh, get a ring light or a bar light here, that, I'd look like an alien. You wouldn't be able to see me. So I have to have side lights. That's why you didn't think I had any lenses. So I don't have lenses in my headshots, but I do have lenses on live streams. Otherwise I couldn't see the screen. Oh, that's a very interesting question. Do you happen to have ADHD? I notice a lot of spiritually gifted people tend to have it. Oh, 100%. Could you not tell? And it's funny because I never thought I had it, because when I am organized and on top of things, I am super organized. And when I have big projects like what I'm talking about, living in the end result, when you're living in the result and I'm like, I had all this stuff to deal with, and I can just start in a corner and keep going. And I thought a lot of people with ADHD are so scattered they wouldn't be as organized. Then I had a friend who was diagnosed, and they said, this is when I was working in an office, and he said, I think you have this too. I'm like, no, I don't. And he had this book, and he goes, read this book and get it back to me. And I had like 80%. I started laughing. I was like, oh yeah, I guess maybe I do. George always teases me because I get so busy, but then I'm also thinking of like 40 things, and I'll be talking to him. And I notice sometimes I even do it in live streams. Like, I start off on a tangent, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, where did I go? And then sometimes I'll remember and I'll come back around, and other times it's gone. And he goes, squirrel. But I think one of the things is I've noticed after doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks is I feel like my nervous system itself has changed, because this isn't something, and I really feel this is what they mean by living in the end result. So I don't have the 10X yet, but I feel like I have the 10X. I don't even know if that makes sense to anybody. So it's So if you wanted to be wealthy, what would you do? Like someone messaged me when I did the post announcing this show, and she said, well, I want a new living room set. Should I go and spend the money now and then just hope it shows up? And I'm like, no. I said, first, look at your current living room. How is it set up? Is it got stuff everywhere? Is it like a disaster? How about cleaning it up first? You know, do the curtains need washing? Can you take the covers off the pillows and give them a good clean? Can you wipe down all the tables, vacuum underneath? Like, or if you have wooden floors, give everything a good wash. Get rid of all the junk. Give everything a good dust. Like, you know, if you had all that new furniture, how would you treat it? So treat your current living room as if it was she said she had a number in her head. So she obviously looked at a set, $6,000. So how would you treat your current living room? If you had your new living room, how would you treat it? So start treating the current living room that way. So are you putting your feet on the table? Do you have coasters always under the drinks? Right? What was the last time the couch throws were washed? If you start acting as if it's already there and start treating what you currently have. So then you're in the habit already. Green says, didn't Goddard say feeling is the secret? Yes. And I think that confuses people because they think they're supposed to feel, okay, I keep using the money one because it's the one the most people ask. They're supposed to feel rich. And they're like, well, how am I supposed to feel like a millionaire if I got 20 cents in my pocket? And that's a very valid question because it's such a big leap. I don't think you can get there. That's why I think it took me weeks to start feeling like my business is 10x'd. I don't even know when I started this. I don't even know. Maybe I started the accounting in September, October. Maybe it's been 6 weeks, 8 weeks that I've been doing this. And it's only now that I'm actually feeling anxious because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this thing's going to manifest. And I haven't got everything done yet. I need to go faster to make sure all my ducks are in a row before I take off. Like, I've got to even it's kind of funny that I know it's coming and I really need to get a move on. Like, I've been going at a good clip, but now the clip has to even pick up more. Like, I couldn't even sleep in this morning. I got up at, 5:30, 6 o'clock. George says to me, you can't, he came out finally at like 7 to get a shower. Where was I here? I was already working on the website. He's like, you can't sleep. What's on your mind? I'm like, oh, work, got to get it going because I want to make sure that website's finished. Even if it's not pretty from the webmaster's perspective, all the links are in the right spots. All the redirects are in the right spots. And it's a huge undertaking. The biggest section is moving all that, like I said, the media articles. And so I wanted to put all my media back on to show, because it's what they call proof of purchase. I say I'm the contest queen. I've been on all this media to show that I've won all these cash and prizes. And then there's nothing on my website. So finally I said, you know what? This is ridiculous. I thought I had someone blur out some of the pictures, but they made them and I needed PDFs. And I thought, you know what? This is ridiculous. I just went on to Fiverr. I found a Adobe Pro expert. And I said, I have like 50 articles and I need every image taken out. Can you do this? And they're like, sure. And I just paid them. I'm like, okay, that's the end of that headache. And now I'm doing all the things. And tomorrow the website, that page will be up. Problem solved. I don't have to do it all myself. That's the other thing. The bigger I get, am I going to spend time trying to figure out how to do graphics? No, I've hired a part-time assistant And on a couple of things, she's been working on some graphics, but it's not her strong suit. It's not my strong suit either. I do okay. I mean, I've done okay on the placeholders for the website. So it's functional, but the graphics guy will come in and, he'll do his thing. But in the meantime, if you want to learn how to find, organize, enter, and win those sweepstakes contests and giveaways, you can go and you can learn easily, right? Oh, here's a good example. Thank you, Yvonne. Pretending takes practice. It's like medication. If you keep trying to visualize and manifest, it gets easier over time. Exactly. I call it January at the gym. And this started in the sweepstakes world, because what happens is everybody makes a New Year's resolution. Oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to eat clean, no more sugar. I'm going to grow my business. I'm going to clean out the guest room. I'm going to, and they have a list, right? I'm going to take that course. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to, whatever. So I call it January at the gym because a lot of people don't like it. Back to the media. Don't like it when I get media because all these people are going to start to enter sweepstakes. And I'm like, no, it's January at the gym. They'll see an article on me or see an interview or a podcast or something. They go, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm going to start to enter sweepstakes. And they go and they start and they realize it's actually work. Because I've told people, they're like, well, what do you do? And I go, okay, well, you got to set up an email just for entering sweepstakes. And then you got to go to a sweepstakes site every day. And then you got to have an organizational system. And you got to sit down for about an hour. And you got to click through everything. And you got to fill in all the forms. And you got to do a little bit of dreaming. And you got to feel good while you're doing it. And you got to click, 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 click. And they're like, oh, that's too much work. And I go, yeah, well, then don't complain when I go to Mexico for free. Or win something. Of course, I can't see any prizes right beside me. I don't always have freebies around me. And they've integrated into my life. Like I don't have like a room full of televisions and computers and swag and stuff. Like it's all kind of been integrated into our lives. And my favorite thing to win are consumables, so to speak, like concert tickets. Like this month, I won a $50 gift card to MLS store.com, the Major League Soccer store. And so I'm going to go on there and order some stuff. I better do it soon because Christmas is coming. And also I won 2 tickets to go see Anne Juliet. So my daughter and I are going to go to that show. So that's a win, but that comes and goes, right? Like, so I'm not going to have anything tangible because it's gone. So I tell people all that stuff that's involved and they go, oh, that's too much work. I don't want to do that. But then they turn around and go, oh, you're so lucky. So it's January at the gym. The people that are there, they go, January, I'm going to lose that 20 pounds. And they start going every day and they get tired. And then by the time February comes, they're nowhere to be seen. Right? You're better off going 3 days a week, steady, over time, consistent results. And you just keep doing it, right? Like the meditation. The more you do it, the better you get. The more you enter sweepstakes, the better you get. The more you go to the gym, the better you get. It's like when you started riding a bike. Were you getting on a French $10,000 racing bike and whipping down the street as a 5-year-old? No, you had a tiny bike with training wheels and your parent was behind you, hopefully. And then you practiced and then the training wheels eventually came off and then you wobbled a lot. You probably fell. You probably skinned your knees. And then pretty soon you're going there. Then you got a little bit bigger. Then you got a bigger bike. And then eventually you might ride a 10-speed. And then if you're really into the hobby, then the cycling world, then you would get better and better bikes. You didn't start off there, but a lot of people think that they should just start off on that 10-speed. No. Oh, yes, exactly. Yvonne says, all my friends get excited about my wins and want to win too. And I show them what to do and not willing to put in the effort. It's true. It's so funny because it's true. Right? You can't make it do. I have not won a big size lottery because I'm focused on it. So what I have done is I have hit 5. Now here's the kicker with the lottery, right? I hit 5 out of 6 numbers. That's a lot of numbers. How much do you think I won for 5 out of 6 numbers? I'll let you put in the comments, and then I'll tell you what I've been doing. But as I said, I like to enter sweepstakes like Helene did. And so I've, since I started entering, I've won over $400,000 in cash and prizes, including 23 trips. I thought it was, 5 out of 6 numbers. 5 out of 6 numbers I got. So think about the, and the jackpot was 22 million that week. That sounds intentional. Oh, it was terrible. I got 5 out of 6 numbers, and the jackpot was 22 million, and I won $2,500. Yeah. So it's very difficult, and it costs money. And I have the miser archetype. I have the gambler archetype. So if you read Carolyn Mace's book, The Sacred Contracts, and she has all the archetypes, I definitely have the gambler. But thankfully, it is tempered by the sacred miser, which means I don't like to spend money on all the lottery tickets or gamble. Like, don't get me wrong. If we have a date night, I take $100 and we go to the casino. Last time I went to the casino, I was at the sweepstakes convention, and one of my sweeping friends, she loves the casino. So off we went on the Sunday after the big event, and I spent $75 and I walked out with $135, and we had hours of fun. So I figured it's almost like entertainment money, and I'm not walking out with thousands, but we had a great time, which, I see it as entertainment money. And I had, I spent some money. So every time I won, I put it in my little purse, and at the end I checked out and I had more than what I had spent. So that was good. But, I tend to focus more on sweepstakes, and it's free to enter, and your odds of winning are way better. And I've made friends for life from this hobby, which I can't even describe. I've made friends for life and people I can count on. Like when I was going through my divorce and I was super sad, I had a lot of sweepstakers say to me, come visit. You need to get out of that house for a while. They could just see how sad I was. And I started planning a trip to visit them all. And I thought, I can't afford this. Like the divorce, we went bankrupt. It was awful. And that was my dark night, right? Like if you know anything about astrology, Pluto into Capricorn, it's a planet of death and rebirth. 3 of my planets are in Capricorn in the 7th and 8th houses. That'll tell you all you need to know. I was so happy to see Pluto go direct into Aquarius for good. Like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Now, I did have an astrologer tell me, well, now you get all your Aquarian lessons. I'm like, well, bring those on because I'm tired of all the Capricorn lessons. I'm done with those. But all my sweepstakes friends said, come and visit. And I did. I ended up doing a tour. I ended up teaching people. I charged everybody $10 when I had the classes. It covered all my gas. People welcomed me in their homes. They took me out. Like, it's the best community. That's why I say sweepstakes is the best hobby. And I wouldn't have had that with winning the lottery. And like I said, the lottery takes money, especially when you're in a state where you don't have any, where I had to go through that dark night, have everything stripped away to rebuild, right? That's what I agreed, obviously, in my soul contract, because that's what's on the birth chart. But the sweepstakes, like I said, they're free to enter and you can win all kinds of things. Like I said, I've won 23 trips. I thought I had won 24. I'll give you an example of getting what you ask for, but not realizing it. At the beginning of the year, I had thought I had won 24 trips. So I kept saying, I want trip number 25 and 25. I want 25 and 25, 25 and 25. That's what I kept saying. And I said it on a few live streams and some classes and different things. And so if you go back, you'll see that I've been saying that. Right at the beginning of the year, I won a weekend away in Kingston, Ontario, to go to the Kingston Film Festival. And we had 2 nights at a bed and breakfast, the oldest bed and breakfast in the city. It was originally the mayor's house that was built in 1837. It was amazing. And dinner at one of the best restaurants in town. And then we had tickets to 6 films. We had so much fun. The only sad thing was it was absolutely freezing. It was like -20 that weekend. So we couldn't enjoy the city. Walking around, just breathing hurt. It was horrible. It was so cold. Anyway, that's not the film festival's fault. I had been saying that. I won it on a Monday. And we took it. I had a meeting on Friday. I couldn't move. So we could either go Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. So we took the Saturday, Sunday because I couldn't get away. And then we couldn't come home Monday because I work for myself. It doesn't matter. So because I won that, I went to update my wins list. And then I thought, I wonder. So I went back through and I realized it was trip number 20. I had won 23 trip. That was trip number 23. It wasn't number 25. I'm like, how did I miscount? I don't know how I miscounted. So I was like, okay, so I won 23 trips, not 25. That's fine. We were at this event for 2 days. I even had pictures at some of the festival. They put up signs and things for the festival. So we took pictures to show that I'd won to this festival. And we ducked into a coffee shop to have some like hot chocolate and a cookie in the afternoon because we were so cold. And we're sitting there and it just hit me. It was the 25th annual film festival in Kingston in 2025. There were signs. There was a sign that we took a picture in front of a sign that said 25 of 25. I asked for 25 and 25. I thought it was the 25th trip win for me. I went, the first thing I won right away was 25 and 25. It took me a week to realize I had manifested what I wanted. So sometimes you get what you want and you don't even know that you got what you asked for. This is one of the reasons we need to get our nervous systems ready, because sometimes things show up and you don't even know that is there. Like some of them are obvious. If you're asking for $1 million cash and your bank account is in the negatives, that's, but you've got to prep yourself for that. And you've got to try different things to get yourself into that state. So for example, if you want $1 million, if I say to you, you say, well, I want $1 million. I say, okay, what do you want to do with $1 million? You're like, I want out of this rental. I'm going to buy a house. Okay. So if you're going to move, are you taking everything in that apartment with you? Oh my God, no, I've got to go through the drawers. I got to get rid of stuff. My wardrobe's overpacked. I got to thin that out because half the stuff doesn't even fit. And start there. Start with, I am moving. Am I taking everything with me? Right? If you're living in the wish fulfilled, which is, I have $1 million, I just bought a house, I'm moving. Don't wait until you have the $1 million and have to, because you might not have the time. So start, they call it, they have the Swedish death cleaning. Don't leave it for your kids. to go through. You go through it now yourself. It's kind of the same thing. If you're going to move tomorrow, you want to go on a trip, you're like, oh, I've always wanted to go to France. I'm going to wish I'm in France. And you get a little beret and you put a little thing by the Eiffel Tower beside your bed and you get on Duolingo and you start practicing French. Is your passport up to date? Do you even have a passport? Check everything. Start, right? Don't ask for $1 million and not buy the ticket. So you have to get yourself into the situation of being able to win the $1 million. So you need to buy a ticket. There's that old cartoon, right? Every week Joe goes to church and begs God for help him win the lottery, every week. I'm a good servant. I do this, I do that, every week, nothing. And finally God says, Joe, meet me halfway, buy a ticket. Right? So that's where you're getting your nervous system prepared. Because if you want money, one of the things we call money is currency. It's energy. Now, if that kind of currency hit you like a lightning bolt, would it fry out your nervous system? And also because that kind of money amplifies. I had a good quote from Robert Ohotto. I don't know what I did with it. I wrote it somewhere. I don't know if I made it a little quote thing. But he basically, I'm going to paraphrase him. He basically said, it's going to amplify all your current archetypes. So if I had the gambler without the miser, you might find me in Vegas blowing all that cash. Or if I was the codependent and hadn't healed some of those tendencies to become interdependent, I might spend all the money trying to give it to everybody so that they would like me and love me. And then again, this is all subconscious because everybody says, oh, I would handle the money right. Now, this is interesting. There is a stat that says 70% of all lottery winners lose their money within the first 5 years. And Timothy Schultz, who I interviewed, says that stat is actually fake. It was taken out of context from something. And he's writing a book because he won the Powerball at 22. He won $28 million. And he had a dream that he won. He woke up and it felt so real. He just wondered where the money was. And he started buying lottery tickets. And then he worked at a gas station and they said, someone at your gas station won the Powerball. And he was like, oh. But the reason I wanted to interview him on my platform was because so many people think that the lottery is going to solve all their problems. Now, it does to a point. So if you're in survival mode and you can't pay your rent and you can hardly eat and you're skipping meals and your shoes have holes in them and this isn't a good situation. Yes, money will make you happier and alleviate a lot of that stress. 100%. 100%. However, after a certain amount, it won't make you any happier. It makes life easier and it makes choices easier. Yes. But it doesn't, and it also doesn't opt you out of life. For example, Timothy likes Muay Thai. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. Muay Thai. He injured his shoulder, needed surgery. Did the money opt him out of pain? No. Did it afford him the money for what he needed to heal? Yes. Will it stop, him aging? No. Will it stop people in his life passing away? Because, we go through those cycles? No. Is it going to stop his children from growing? No. Will it stop his dog from eventually passing? We have pets, they break our hearts. No, it doesn't stop any of that. It doesn't opt you out of life. It gives you more choice. It does relax a lot of certain stressors, but it sometimes brings others. He had something called sudden wealth syndrome, and he also had a lot of trust issues after he won, and he had to navigate all of that. Now, everyone says, well, I would love to handle those problems. Okay, but let's see if we can't get your nervous system ready first. So let me go back and answer some of these questions because I've been talking, and let's see where we get. Oh, I'm doing that right now, but not the beret though. Yes, my passport is up to date. Yeah, research hotels, maybe practice the language. I did that. I did that whole process when I was younger, and I didn't realize I was doing the process of prepping my nervous system. I'd always wanted to live in Australia ever since I was like a little kid. I was fascinated, when you learn about animals, and I learned about the kangaroos and the koalas and the emus and the platypus. I'm like, there, I want to go there. And then my aunt married someone that was an Australian. My mom's sister, youngest sister, married a fella that's family was in Australia. When they left Europe, when there was war in Europe, all the families left, and some of them came to Canada and some of them went to Australia. So my grandmother's best friend went to Australia and my grandmother came here. And that family came to Canada. So there was like a cousin or a son. I don't remember how the relations go, but we knew somebody. And so he met my aunt and he was smitten. So then she lives in Australia. So I ended up going. I always wanted to go. So now I even had a place to stay. So when I was 24, I started saving up. I literally put every penny I had into the bank, and I got my passport. I did everything. I got my working holiday visa, and I packed my bags and I went and lived in Australia for a year. And every time I wanted to do something that was costing money, I was like, oh, that's my plane ticket to here, or that's my spending money here, or this. And it was in the early 90s. So it was a lot different than it is now. And honestly, now, the way technology is and how I can stay in touch with anybody, because I was really homesick, I think I wouldn't have come back. But yeah, I just focused on it and I went, and it was amazing. And I got to go back and visit someday. But yeah, you can absolutely get there. Is it better to pick numbers or have the machine pick them? I did quick pick when I won, and I believe we have to go and watch Timothy's videos, but if memory serves, please forgive me, I'm pretty sure he did a quick pick too. Yeah, money equals freedom and stability, correct. But like I said, it doesn't necessarily purchase happiness. It doesn't necessarily purchase good decisions. It doesn't opt you out of your current archetypes. It could even heighten them for the worst, potentially. And it can go both ways. Like I said, if you've got the gambler, you could spend it all away. But if you're a super generous soul, you can end up donating a bunch of it and helping other people. There's all kinds of different things. And depending on how much you win. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't opt you out of life. But yeah, once a lot of people have stability, that makes a huge difference. Oh, 100%. If you can't handle your money now, you won't be able to handle it when you have tons. There's stories of people that's happened to. And some people are more miserable when they win. And I get a lot of people asking why Helene Hadsel didn't win the lottery. And I said, well, because Texas didn't have a state lottery till 1992, and she won everything she wanted in the 50s and 60s, early 70s. Why would she start entering the lottery? I mean, she did play occasionally. I found later she did, buy the occasional ticket. But by then in her life, she was already in her 70s. right? She was just coming into her 70s. And she was just on her writing journey. She'd already had her houses. They had a lake house. They had a house that they won. Then they bought the property in Alvarado. They had investments from, because they saved their money too. Like, they didn't just win the house. And they traveled everywhere. So, she didn't need to win the lottery at that point, because people say, because I tell people, well, what do you want the money for? Well, I want to buy a house. Well, she won a house. Well, I want to use it to travel. Well, she won all the trips. Well, I want to use it to go on shopping sprees. Well, she won gift cards and cash. Well, I want it, everything you say that you want to spend the money on, she won it. So what did she need the lottery for? And at the end, she was so, you can go read this. I love Helene. I have a 3-part blog series on how to win the lottery, Helene Hatzel style. If you just go to my website and type in lottery, you'll see this series. So she had a small section in the Name It and Claim It game on her concept of winning the lottery. And again, she said, I never really played it because there wasn't a lottery in Texas. So she just gave her educated guess based on energy on how you could play it. So I did a blog with that blurb. But then when I obtained her business files, I found one digital article on winning the lottery. And I found one paper article that I digitized on winning the lottery. And by the end of it, she's like, just get over it. I think she was so tired because people have been asking her the same question for 40 years. She's like, get over it. I've already written the book. I've told you how to win. You need to focus on it. Stop bothering me. The giant spiders keep me in Canada. Yes, when I was at my aunt's house, we were sitting in the family room. Beautiful. They had a beautiful bungalow. They call it, I think in the States, they call it a ranch, and beautiful ranch style house. And so we're sitting in the family room, and they had the shears open to the patio door because it's such a warm country. You're in and out all the time. So the shears were open. But now it's night and we're watching television. And so the lights are on. So you can't really see outside, but you can see like the reflection on the glass. And I see this thing climbing up the glass. I'm like, what is that? She's like, oh, that's a huntsman. They're harmless. Never saw another one. I thank very much. That's very funny. Yeah, agreed. Money makes you more of what you are. Exactly. Timothy says it a different way too. And the richest man in the world, yet he appears to be miserable. Look at Elon, richest man in the world, yet he appears to be miserable as could be, which surprises me. And again, he's human. He gets to experience all the emotions we do. Like he's got his own challenges in life, and he has his own lessons that he came here to learn, and he's obviously in the midst of learning them. Yeah, Helene had everything you could spend the lottery money on. Absolutely. And she was really happy. At the end, she just stayed on the Alvarado property. One building was her house. The other building was the Delta Sciences Center. And so she had that, right? And she had 5 acres. So she had gardens and trees and, it was quiet. You could just relax there. That's where I met her. I went and visited her with her at that house. And by then she wasn't really as mobile as she'd like. Like she used to walk her because she was scared to fall. Just make sure that she was okay. I think she'd had a bit of a fall at that point. But we went out shopping. We had so much fun together. We went out everywhere. Oh my God, her sense of humor. She was so quirky. I wish I'd spent more time with her. And also the questions that I asked her in 2008 aren't the questions I'd ask her today. But of course, hindsight. And yeah, so at that point they had sold the lake house because her husband had passed away. So they weren't going there because they used to go because he loved to fish. She had sold the house that she won, and then she just stayed where she was, and she was getting a little grumpier. She's like, sometimes people would just come visit her unannounced, and she'd be like, oh, why don't I leave the gate open? I didn't want to be bothered. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And she wasn't techie either, which is, I think, another reason she asked me to maintain her legacy, because I'm very techie. I mean, I'm not super high end, but I can do all the books and everything. I do all of that. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this is where so can you still win houses in sweepstakes? Yes, actually, depending on where you live. In Canada, we don't have any sweepstakes for houses. There was a condo given away a few years ago, but here to win a house, there's charity lotteries that give away houses. In the States, though, there's the annual big one, which is the HGTV house that's given away. And I had a person message me on TikTok that she had won the house, and they took the cash option, which was $250,000. Because other winners have taken the house and had trouble with it and had to sell it right away because they couldn't pay the taxes. Other people, I think another person that won it lived in it for 2 years and then they sold it. Because the income tax on it is tremendous, right? Because it's such a big amount in a short amount of time. And so she took the $250,000 option, and then I tried to message her to interview her, and she never messaged me back. But it is winnable. Someone has to win. Oh, there's a sweepstakes with a pharmacy in Quebec, and it's not. That's interesting. It's not a charity, huh? That's fantastic. I haven't heard of that one, but it's not common. Is the point I'm trying to make. Giving away houses isn't common. And I don't think it was even common back then. I think it's a rare occurrence. It's one house, but there's thousands. Here's the other thing. There's one HGTV contest that's very well advertised, that everybody knows about, that everybody enters. And I think the last stat that I read, and I don't know how many years ago this was, I think they had 165 million entries. And when Helene won her house, there was 2 million entries. So out of 165 million entries, I think it runs for, I don't know how many months. And then it runs for so many months, and then they pick potential winners, and then those potential winners are vetted, and you can enter every day. So if it's running for 2 months, you could get 60 entries in. So there's not 165 million people entering. It's, let's assume each person has the full 60 entries, right? So the odds of winning are really difficult. However, that's why I encourage people to enter other sweepstakes like Helene did and I do, because your odds of winning are fantastic. Like, for example, when I won that trip to Kingston, there was no transportation included. Oh, I'll give you someone asked about vetted. I'll explain that in a second. When I won the trip to Kingston, transportation wasn't included, and I live 2 hours from Kingston. So I knew it was only people within a certain range that were willing to drive or take a train, because you can't really fly there, would be interested in going. So that immediately shrinks the pool, right? And so then my odds of winning, and it's in the dead of winter, so a lot of people don't want to go away. And it was potentially a Friday, Saturday, like a Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So if you can't get a day off work, right, you're going to miss out, right? But I work for myself, so it doesn't matter. And George works for himself, so it doesn't matter. So we had that flexibility. So every barrier to entry increases your odds of winning. And Green, we had a question, what does it mean by vetted? So in the suite, this is why my number one sweepstakes tip is always read the rules. And this is really interesting because I'm really bouncing between words for winning and teaching living in the end result, and wearing my contest queen crown and teaching sweepstakes, because they really do converge at this point of living in the end result. Because one of the quickest ways to have, well, it's a combo, to have fun and increase things coming to you. It could be a trip, it could be cash, it could be a car, it could be a gift basket, it could be Venmo. I mean, there's people getting, $10 and $20 put in their Cash App account, like money's just showing up, even in small amounts. So my number one tip is to always read the rules. Now, in the rules for the HGTV house, you're vetted. And what does that mean? Is they don't want an axe murderer winning their house, because they want the person that wins it to match their character, to match the character of the company. So, for example, in the rules, it says that you'll go through a police check. Like, you're giving them by entering, you're giving them the permission to do a background check on you if you were chosen as a potential winner. And you're always a potential winner until you're named the official winner. So that what they'll do is they'll pull 10 names, the first potential winner, second, third, fourth, fifth. They'll give those names to a detective, and that detective will go and do searches. I actually work with that detective on sweepstakes, and I've actually hired her in my business for doing research. Like, when I was trying to buy the rights to books, I needed to source out some of the illustrators and additional co-authors that I couldn't find on my own. So I hired a detective to help me find them. And so I know her through that realm. And so then somebody like her would go through and just do background checks, and they'd say, hey, this person was arrested like 5 years ago for drug possession. I don't know if you want them. Or this person, went to jail for fraud or whatever, or these people are so nice, they have nothing. And then they would weed out anybody that they wouldn't. Now, you're always a potential winner until you fill out the paperwork. So say they get the first person, they're clean as a whistle. They send them the paperwork. The paperwork never comes back. They're disqualified. And then they go to the next person. Or they fill it out incorrectly, and they would disqualify them, and they go to the next person. So until they get the correctly filled out paperwork back, you go from a potential winner to an official winner. So exactly. Yvonne says, you think when there's a lot of entries, you don't stand a chance, but someone has to win. 100%. And remember, in the name it and claim it game, Helene was using her intuition. This is why. Now, remember, she won it before she took the Silva method, but she had read The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, and probably lots of other books, but she doesn't mention any of them. And and if you remember in Contact with Other Realms, she could see into the fourth dimension when she was 6. She talked about when her grandfather passed away. So she's always been highly intuitive, psychic. She says she's not a medium, like she doesn't talk to dead people. But she was highly connected. When she was 17, she nearly died, and that's the first time she saw a messenger. So when she was going to be winning the house, she went to the World's Fair in 65, when she won in 64, rather, when they won the trip, and she wanted to be 40 sitting in Paris, because she was born in 1924. So in 1964, they had gone to the World's Fair, And then they had been on other trips to Europe. And when they came back in 65 from one of the European trips, she went to her contest club and they were talking about this house giveaway, but it had been running at this point for a year because the World's Fair ran from 64 to 65. And there was a sample for Micah home built at the World's Fair, but they had never seen it the year before. She's like, how did we miss that? I mean, the World's Fair was huge. So of course it was easy to miss. So she never saw it when they were in New York. And she just had an inkling she needed to go because they had houses built all over the country. And there was one like 20 miles away in, I believe, Garland, Texas, from where she was at the time. I think they were also in Irving at the time. Or no, where were they? I had a list of her addresses. I can't remember what city she was in at that time. Anyway, she drove to Garland. She had a feeling she needed to go to Garland. And it was raining that day and none of her friends wanted to come with her. And she kept thinking, I got to go see this house. So she already had an inkling and she went to the house and she could sit in it. Now, usually they have these houses, you can't go in, or if you can't now, because they'll have like if you go to the HGTV house, you can't go in, but you can go and do like a photo. They take photos and you go onto the website and look at the house inside, right? But at that time, you could go into the house and she could actually sit on the furniture. So she sat in the living room and she thought, oh, I'm winning the house. Like she just knew. She already knew it was hers. So I don't know if it was part of her soul contract, like she was destined to win that house. And that's why she had that inkling, like, I have to go. Or, and I'll give you an example of being in the flow of life, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know if it was part of her soul contract or she just tapped into something or she was ready for it and she had already pre-wired her nervous system. So she sat in that living room and knew she was going to win. So she entered, her and her husband, and she took an extra entry blank home so she could double check the rules. And it was like the next day she was rereading the rules and realized it said that you had to have visited the home. And she thought, oh my God, my husband didn't go. I entered his name. He has to go. So she told him, we have to go. We're winning this house. You have to see it. I read the rules. And he's like, because by then she'd already won so much stuff. He's like, okay. He just went and he saw the house. And then it was her name that was picked because it was HB Hadsel, which was legally it was Helen Barbara Hadsel. She never changed it. But at some point, I'm guessing the mid 80s, based on the timeline of stuff, she added the E. So her numerology would go from a 2 to a 7. You can go see my interview with Sarah Jordan because she wrote about that. And I did a blog on it too. If you're curious about her birth chart, I have it up on the website. I wasn't comfortable sharing it at first. And then when she would have been 100, it seemed appropriate to share it. So I put her birth chart up for people June 1st, 2024, because she would have been 100. I know, right? And so you can go see that there. I'm still working on getting an astrologer to come on. So I interviewed somebody on her human design, which was really interesting because they took my human design and her human design. And if you understand human design, which I do a bit, there's like circuits and a lot of like there's, if you overlap our two charts, circuits she start, I close. Like she opens them, I close them, I finish it. It's like her circuit, my circuit, her circuit, my circuit, or they overlap or they're the same, like that. It's really kind of cool. So it's like, oh, we obviously had a soul contract for me to pick up her gauntlet and keep running with it and teach these lessons. So you can go back and look at that. But here's the other thing that kind of, I did a blog on it, so you can go and read it. And it's about being in the flow of life. And we do this probably every day and have no clue. And I was only made aware of it because I guess I'm more awake or in observer mode all the time now. And so I had George. So I was going down this summer. I had this crazy road trip. Go read my winning road trip things where I spent several days with Melissa, who is Helene's granddaughter. Then I went to the annual National Sweepstakes Convention to spend time with all my crazy sweepy friends. And then I drove because they were both in Arkansas. And then I drove to Texas because I'm like, I'm already here. I went and visited Dyke and Fiona Hadsel. And then I came home. Now, George, God bless him, he's my boyfriend. He went to a couple of the sweepstakes things. It is not his cup of tea. He's like, you go, honey, you have a good time. So I drove down. Yeah, I drove down by my crazy self. And I went to Melissa's in Arkansas and spent time with her. And it was better because it's really just the girls. And it was amazing because she taught me that, I have skill sets that she doesn't have, and she has skill sets that I don't have. And I was like, oh, I wish I could do some of these things. And then I realized that I could do some things she couldn't do. And then I thought, oh, stick to your own lane. We need all the different aspects, because if we could all do all the same things, what good would that be? Right? We all need each other. We're all different pieces in the grand mosaic of life, and we need all the pieces to make the whole picture. So don't, if you're the blue piece, don't be jealous of the green piece over there, because we need you, the blue piece, right? Like, stay in your own lane and shine your brightness as you are. Isn't there a Bible verse about not hiding your light under a bushel? Right? You gotta be your own light. You gotta be out there. And so then I went to the convention, and then I drove to Texas. But then I flew George down because I wanted him to meet Dyke, because I've been doing all this work around Helene, and I talk about Dyke and Fiona, and I talk about where she lived, and I talk about all these things. And I wanted him to have some context. And besides, it would be fun to have a little bit of summer vacation. We like road trips. We're visiting friends on the way back. So I flew him down to Dallas, and he got to meet all these people. And we took Dyke and Fiona out for lunch. And we ended up at the Spring Creek barbecue. And halfway through lunch, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, this place looks really familiar. Well, it turns out it was a different location, but same restaurant. That Helene and I went to for the DF Winners Sweepstakes Club meeting. And I had planned that weekend to come visit her around that club meeting so she could come to the club meeting and come to a sweepstakes club meeting. We had so much fun. That club is disbanded, by the way, sorry to say. But we took them to this restaurant. Anyway, the food was fantastic. We're having a great time. And Dyke has started telling us stories about the house that his parents had won, and how after a few years, the foundation started to settle and become a little bit uneven, because how they built down there. See, where I live, they dig basements because we're below, it freezes and you got to have something below the frost line. So we all have basements. We don't have this issue, but they're built on slabs, but the slabs are on like pylons or pillars that are, poured into the ground, and they had started to shift. And so Pat, Helene's husband, had to dig under the house and kind of fix all the things. I'm not in construction, but he's telling us this story and how Pat had to basically level the house, the one that they won. And I did do a little research on it, and the soil in that area, because apparently this is a common problem. The soil is called dynamic, which sounds like, I don't know if I'd want to be building on it. Anyway, so he's telling us this whole story of all the adventures they had, fixing this house. And he tells us that story, and I was like, that was interesting. It wasn't prompted. It was just, he just told us. One of the things he then gave us is a photo album that was basically disintegrating. and it had all these pictures that hadn't been seen before, articles, everything. So I had the sense to bring an old printer with me with a scanner on it. So I sat in the hotel room and I'm scanning, and part of that set was some of the Formica publicity photos that hadn't seen the light of day. So if you go to Words for Winning, you can click on Helene's name and you'll get a drop down for both articles and photos that I found. So I had some photos, but now it's really expanded. So I'm scanning all these pictures and I'm thinking, I wanted to take George to the house, right? Like I had a plan. I wanted to go donate some books at the Irving Library. I was going to donate them in Alvarado, and Dyke said the town's too small. The books are going to get lost there. And so I thought, well, she won the house in Irving. It's only appropriate to be in Irving. So I was going to donate some books. I wanted to stop by the house, and I wanted to stop by the church because I never had a chance, but she has several stories about where she levitated, where they went and listened to Father Thomas give a sermon at this particular chapel. And I thought, okay, I want to go to this chapel and see for myself. So we had the day planned out. So we go to Walmart and I make a set of the prints because I thought, I'm going to give these to the people that live in the current Irving house. They're probably going to really love to see the original publicity photos because they haven't been seen. So I get a card because if they're not home, I know I need to stick it in the mailbox. So we do that. I made a pit stop at Trader Joe's because road trip snacks, and I collect their bags. If you follow me, I have from almost the whole country. There's a bunch I'm missing. So George is like, what are you doing with all these bags? I'm like, but I don't have that one. So then I turn around and we go there, and, we get snacks and things for the road trip. It's a great place for a snack. Then we go to the Irving Library, and they were so grateful. They'd never heard of Helene. I said, because the house she won was actually on Rochelle. The library was on Rochelle, on the other side of Rochelle. And I told him, and then he was so happy. The manager of the library, I still think he's a librarian, but I don't know what his title would be. And he was flipping through the books because I took all the books. I took my books. I took Helene's books. I took the translations. I took Tag's books. I took everything I had printed. I had a stack. And I said, I want to donate these. And I explained that Helene had been a resident. She'd won all these things. The house was still on Irving. She's passed away, blah, blah, blah. He was going through the books. And when he saw that I had also donated them all in Spanish, he was so happy. I guess nobody translates their books. Anyway, because there's a huge Spanish-speaking population in Irving, he had Spanish books now of this woman that was an Irving resident. So it was so nice to drop those off. Then we go to the house in Irving because I'd made an arc, right? We through the map. So we get to the house in Irving, and I see the cars are in the driveway. So I get George to park on the street, and I take my little, card, and I go knock on the door. The owner opens it up. Now, I had spoken to them the year before. I'd caught them at home, and they actually said, did you want to see the inside of the house? I'm like, yes, please. Unfortunately, there's basically no Formica left in the house because 2 years prior, they had a fire, and the house had already been renovated to one point when now it was completely renovated. The fireplace still looked exactly the same. That was kind of cool. Anyway, I knocked on the door, and he opened it, and he goes, hi. I've been looking for your business card because I'd left him one because we're having a problem with the foundation. And I was wondering if you could put me in touch with someone who might know about the house. What? Dyke just told me the story of the foundation, unprompted. And they say time doesn't exist. Everything's always happening at once. So obviously I was the messenger. So I text Dyke and I go, hey, the current owner, because I put his name, of the Rochelle house is having problems with the foundation. And I gave him your number. He's going to call you. What? Yeah. Oh my goodness is right. Now, Robert Ohado always says, live as if you're the answer to somebody's prayer. That's what I was doing. Did I know I was going to be the answer to someone's prayer? How often do we do things in life that help somebody out or ripple out or the butterfly effect or whatever it is. And we have no clue. We really need to live as if we are the answer to somebody's prayer. All of us. Because we don't know that maybe smiling at someone is the answer to their prayer. Or passing someone a book that could change their life. I had someone, and I could have swore it was my cousin, turns out it wasn't, when I was in that dark night, say to me, I think you should go find Robert Ohato's work. I think it can really help you. And I found him on Facebook and I started listening to his podcasts. They're not online anymore, but there are some on Listen Notes if you want to go listen, but they're kind of old. But there's one on codependency, highly recommended. And then I got his book, Transforming Fate into Destiny. So basically the 3 books that changed my life completely, obviously the Name It and Claim It game, the Silva Method, and Transforming Fate into Destiny. Those are my big 3. Highly recommend all. But I'm sure, but Helene's wouldn't be those, right? What changed her life was Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking, and I'm not sure what other ones she really changed from, but that one is obvious. So everyone has their, right, books or mentors. Like Neville Goddard had Abdul, but I don't know what books he read. But you know what I mean? Like we're all standing on the shoulders of the teachers before us, right? For example, I need to do a video on this. So many of the big teachers now all took the Silva Method. It's like a foundational course, and then they all build on top of that. And they teach similar things in different ways, because really there's nothing new under the sun. The same stuff that Wallace Waddle wrote about is what Helene wrote about, is what Neville Goddard taught, is what Joe Dispenza's teaching, is what Wayne Dyer taught, is what I'm teaching. Like it's all the same in that sense, if that makes any sense. Right? Uncanny connections. It is absolutely, the connections are uncanny. We don't know. So what I want you to do, so back to the original thing that we're talking about tonight, right? When you prepare your nervous system to do whatever, like my nervous system is always prepped for road trips. Like I think I was born road trip ready. Because I've always loved me a good road trip. I love being in the car. I like having adult money. I like making all the pit stops I want. Right? I just think there's something about it. It's fun. I listen to podcasts. I listen to courses. I always multitask. Maybe that's the ADHD. And I love seeing new things. And don't get me wrong, I really would like a southern vacation, like Caribbean. And I want to get George. He's never been. I haven't been in years. I want to get over to Europe again. I think that would be fun. But in the meantime, it's fun to do a road trip. And so that's where we were in the flow of life. But that's where you've got to get your nervous system ready. Like my nervous system is ready for road trips and for sweepstaking because I've been doing it for so long. It's natural for me. But if you start like if you'd never been sweepstaking, like we were talking earlier, and I give you all the list of things to do, and you're overwhelmed because you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. These people are so lucky. And yeah, because I've been doing it a hot minute. Why do you think I'm such a good teacher of sweepstakes? I have made all the mistakes. On TikTok, I have a list called Silly Sweepstakes Mistake. I think I'm up to 46. I'm a seasoned sweeper, and I still make silly mistakes. I'll forget something. I'll find something. I'll do something. And I'm like, how did I just do that? I know better. Right? So but my nervous system is accustomed to winning. I'm accustomed to reading the rules, but I'm not accustomed to having a business that's 10 times the size. So that's what I'm in the process of prepping. Just like if you wanted to become a seasoned sweeper and win a lot of things, you would need to start and just start going and get, like, it's a learning curve, right? And the more comfortable you get. So it's the same thing, right? I'm prepping myself. And like I said, I've been actually feeling anxious because I feel like stuff is going to move fast and I better have my stuff done. So what's fallen off my plate? It's sweepstakes season. I'm not entering as much as I would like to because I'm focused on being ready for the 10X. And I haven't been going to the gym. That one I need to resolve because I don't want to be a frumpy lump and rich. I want to be healthy, strong, and rich. Right? So I've got to figure that one out. And I'm working on meditating every day. Mind Valley, who I know I'll be working. I had someone tell me you're going to be working with Vishen again because I worked with him in 2009 when Helene's The Winning Sage program came out. And I had a friend say to me, oh, you're going to be working with him again. You should email him. I did. I never heard anything. But I thought, well, if I'm going to be on his site, they had because I'm so busy, I don't always have time for courses, but they had a Black Friday sale. So I bought it. I'm like, that's a good deal. And so I bought it and I'm working on doing, because I get lax. I meditate and then I fall off, just kind of like the gym, right? I'm really good and then I fall off. So I'm working on doing that because I also am going to need a calm, steady mind and a calm, steady nervous system as I navigate. I equate it to learning to kayak. So taking the Silva method, because there's a lot of meditation in the Silva method, none of this stuff, winning the lottery, learning these methods, meditating, none of it opts you out of life. What it does do is it's like kayaking, right? You'll see these videos online. Someone's in a kayak and they're just going along and you hear the loons and you see the mist and there's trees in the background. The lake is like glass, right? Just paddling. Oh, everybody can do that. But then you see the guys, they got the helmet on, the life jacket, they're in the kayak and they're hitting those rapids. Whew. And they're able to like bounce off the rocks. And if they flip over, they can get back up and they're like dealing with it. But they're strong as they have their core, right? Their core is strong. That's like life. Sometimes it's that smooth paddle ride. And sometimes you're fighting for your life in the rapids. But the meditating and getting your nervous system ready, if the whole thing flips you over, you know how to get back up. So it doesn't opt you out of the rapids, but it gets you down the rapids safely. And that's why we need some of these techniques and why you need to take actions in advance of whatever it is you want or want the money for. And it's taken me, like, I'm looking at the calendar because I have my calendar on the other side of this. I think it's been 6 to 8 weeks. And only now do I feel like I'm kind of in the groove of where I need to be for the business. So it's taken me some time of dealing with that accounting every day, getting that filing done, cleaning my desk, dealing with every little bit of paper, pick something up. What is this? Why is it here? It needs to go away. Pick it up, put it away. And now I come in here into this office. Now I have this background here because this office is extremely small and extremely cramped. And it's a sports themed office. And it's not really conducive to promoting my books and things. And so I decided to get the background. And then if you can see, it's like similar to my hair color now, because after the pandemic, I stopped coloring my hair. It's a little, I do highlights, but to take a little of the edge off because I'm really white. So I take a little of the edge off. But basically, my head blended into the background. And every author I see promotes their book. So I had my graphics guy take all my book covers and make these little banners, and then I can just switch them out to whatever I'm promoting. I have 8 of them, so I can put whatever books. I have Instant Money. I have The Man Called Friday. This one's Money and You, right? I have all the different whatever I feel like putting up. So if you see my these, yeah, and they're kind of posters, but they're that waterproof banner stuff. And I had to put grommets on the bottom, so if we have to, I can add weights to pull them down. And I just put hooks. I've got some hooks, and we widen them so they fit over the edge, and then I can just move them around. So it gives me kind of a cohesive background, right, without the stuff. And so I'm getting myself ready, because I keep saying one day I'm going to have a library, because all of Helene's books and Tag's books and my books are in Rubbermaid bins right now. So one day I would like to have a library so that I can teach from the books easily. Because right now I'm talking to you about certain things. Well, first of all, it'd be nice if this wasn't here and I just had all these books behind me and I could reach back or reach to the side, however it's set up. And I could go, and this book we're talking about today, or let me get this one, right? It'd be kind of neat to have all those books and things at the ready. And then I could also teach more from different vintage books and things that I can't do right now. I could, but it's a lot of effort that I don't want to put in, like moving boxes around and then digging because I don't know where it is. And and then sometimes I put things back and then I can't remember how they fit. And then it's a little bit frustrating. So that's why I'm saying, okay, let's get ready. And at some point, maybe I'll rent an office that has a library, or I'll get my own place. Yeah, I will. I absolutely will. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That's what I'm working on. So that's why I wanted my nervous system ready, because I think it's one of those things, when it comes, it's going to come quick. So I got to be ready. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what shifts in the business when people see that I worked on this for weeks or months, really, and then they could do it too. Because that's where people get stuck, right? They don't know how to shift into the end result. Because basically what people want to do is they want to stay the same, but they want that. But if you had that, you wouldn't be here. You have to be here to get that. And people don't want to do that, so they don't get that. Right? I'll give you another example. I know I usually only do this for an hour, but this is so important. I'll give you another example of not necessarily, things sometimes take longer than you think. I love doing the vision board thing. And every January, Colette Barron Reed on her Facebook page does an amazing vision board class. Make sure you go follow her on Facebook and take that free class. And then if you join her inner circle, I think she calls it, you can keep watching that, plus all the other things she does. And anyway, go follow her on Facebook for this amazing vision board class. And on the vision board for years, I was doing this vision board like 20 years ago. And I would always put 2 Adirondack chairs, the ones where they have, it looks like a dock with the lake and the 2 Adirondack chairs. Or I had a couple sitting on the dock. Or I had all these images like that, like really connected, 2 people, peaceful. And I always had that in my vision board. But I was married to someone who wasn't going to be that image for me, but I didn't know that at the time. And I kept putting it on there, and the universe says to me, you really want that? And I go, yeah, I really want that. And they go, you sure? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. Because this gentleman that you're married to, he's not the doc kind of guy. So he needs to go. I'm like, really? right? The money went, my health was a little iffy at times. I nearly lost my business. Like one year, I think for the whole year, I made $500 a month. It was bad. I thought the business was going to close. Literally, I made it out by the skin of my teeth on that one. And they said, "You sure?" Okay. So we had all these things happen. And then I finally moved out. I was able to move out. And I stayed single for 4 years because I thought, I'm a hot mess. I wouldn't want to date me. No, I had the sense, I had the awareness, the self-awareness to know that this was not a good idea. And I just needed to, and I felt like I was slogging through mud, right? Like I knew up here what I needed to do. And this was like, I don't think so. We're just going to go at a snail's pace here. And I knew up here what to do. Like I said, it was very frustrating because I couldn't, it took a long time to heal through that. And then I dated someone, the universe was like, okay, we're just going to make sure. Just going to make sure that you're ready. Yeah, that one. No, I don't want that again. Okay. Then I met George. And when I met him, it was on his profile. He said his perfect day would be like his perfect date would be like a Sunday morning at the cottage on the dock, having a coffee with his girl. She didn't have to be perfect, just sitting there on the, and I'm like, that guy. He described the scene in his profile. And I'm like, that guy. Now, what's funny is he'd been on other dating sites and he just came on to the one I was on because I was on the other site. After we met and we were closing the profiles, he said, well, how many people did you meet? And he goes, you. I go, what do you mean me? He's like, yeah, you're the only one that messaged me on that site. Clearly meant to be. But from the time that I put those 2 Adirondack chairs on that vision board and I met George was a decade. Because I had to my codependent archetype had to go from a codependent to an interdependent archetype. Now the codependent's still there. She's just not at the head of the table. Right? And I had to get my nervous system. I had to work on all these other things. And then I was ready. Right? But people, want everything instantly. Not a good idea. If I had met George right when I got the divorce, we wouldn't be together. It's been 8 years. But the person that I was when I left to the person that I was met him was like night and day. Like I was so sad when I left that house, like when we were getting out of the divorce with Capricorn sitting on my moon, my Mercury, and my sun. I had won a book publishing deal and I lost it because I was so sad I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it out in time. So that's what I meant. I was slogging through mud. I'm like, why? I don't understand why I can't get through this. Because I'm smart. I'm like, I'm smart. I know this stuff. I read all the books. I do all the things. And my heart's like, right? I was aware enough. So I just had to go through it and deal with it. And it just took a lot longer than I would have liked. But in the meantime, I learned a lot. And that's why I can teach you, right? Because I've been there. I've done it. So that's the other thing. You have to trust the timing of it. So just get yourself, isn't the expression, and I can't remember who said it, but it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than have an opportunity and not be prepared. So I am in the midst of preparing my business to grow 10 times its size. Now, what if it only grows 1 time its size next year? Would I be upset? Oh, no, I'd be happy. They probably getting me more ready for the big one because it'll give me another level of things to work on. Right? But in the meantime, I'm acting as if And so that's what I want you to do through your life. Be in observer mode, like not just now, for like a whole month even. And it's going to be really interesting. It's the best month to do it because we have the holidays coming. There's Thanksgiving. There's all the crazy shopping. There's the decorating, the gift buying, the family things. Plus, for some businesses, like my business gets busier in December. And then you have all the family events. And just watch what your self-talk is and watch what actions you take. And if any of them are counteracting the goals that you want. So do kind of like a T, the T exercise where you take a piece of paper and you write a T on it and you put want and don't want. And then that's Michael Logier's exercise, by the way. He wrote the book, The Law of Attraction. Fantastic. Right? Do the T exercise, write it out. And write what you want and what you don't want. So you get the contrast. Actually, it's easier if you write what you don't want because a lot of people can figure out their negatives before their positives. So it's like going to a travel agent. He gives this example. It's a good drive. If you go into a travel agency and you say, I don't want to go I want to go on a trip. And they go, okay, where? And you're like, I don't know. So they're going to narrow it down. Do you like hot climates or cold climates? And you're like, oh, I want to go hot. So now you're not going to Switzerland skiing. You're probably going to go maybe to Australia in the summer to pet the kangaroos, right? Like it's going to narrow it down. So write down, if you already know what you want, write that down. If you still not sure, do all the things you don't want, and then you can find the counter positive point, right? They teach that in the Silva method too. Always a better feeling thought. And it doesn't have to be like, if you're saying, I'm always tired, don't say, well, I'm always full of energy, because your brain goes, well, that's BS. You're tired. Oh, I have a little more energy every day. Oh, your brain goes, oh yeah, I can believe that, because it's positive and it's believable. Right? And I think that's why it's taking me 8 weeks at this point to get to this point in what I'm doing, because it's believable. It's like, oh yeah, this is coming. We got to get all this stuff done. Oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. I've been talking for almost 2 hours. I'm starting to feel like I'm channeling my inner Robert Ohado. He says he's going to come on and he's going to talk for 45 minutes, and 2 hours later, he's still teaching too. Where did I leave off? Okay, maybe I should just wrap this up. So anyway, just start to know. Oh yeah. So watch what you're doing, be in observer mode, and start to maybe journal or make notes or make mental notes or voice notes in your phone of what you're doing for the next like 30 days. And if you have any actions that you notice are counterintuitive, or not counterintuitive, that counter your goals, right? So for example, you want to feel more generous, but then you see someone that needs money and you don't even want to give them $1, and how that reacts viscerally in you. Make a note of that. Go, that's interesting. Why did my stomach just tighten when somebody asked me for $1? So even if you don't give it to them, if you're really uncomfortable, make note of that feeling. Or why did that person say that? It actually doesn't mean anything, but why did I feel suddenly upset? That's interesting. I'm going to sit with that for a minute. Why is that getting triggered? What can I heal? What can I have noticed what has changed is I used to dread doing my expense reports, like my stomach, and it would take hours, and I would poke at it and it would take so long. And this morning, the first thing I did was the February expense report, and I sat down and I had my earbuds on and I just did it. And it used to make my stomach tighten, and it didn't. So I used to always feel like the accounting was the bane of my existence. Well, how are you going to 10x your business if the accounting is the bane of your existence? So I've been working on that, and it's working because now I just sit down. I'm the responsible entrepreneur. I'm getting my stuff done so that the accountant can have my books ready, so they stay on top of my cash flow and my taxes. Because that's important, right? Keeping my business on track. And because I've been doing all this work on it, this is the first time, and I can't even remember that I am at ease doing an expense report. That was this morning. I sat with a cup of tea and I did an expense report, and I was like, oh, that's different. Again, in the observer mode, I did notice the feeling was different. And I bet you by the time I get to the end of the year, because of course I can only go to October so far. And my goal is to get one done every day, so it's not overwhelming. Plus, then I can do all these other things. But then I'll be that much more ahead. So think about it. In 10 days, I can have all my expense reports done. So in next year, when I have to go through and just print off all the November, December, like receipts from different companies and from the bank and whatnot, I only have a couple ones to do. And all the files are already done. So I just have to highlight the dates and stick them in. It's going to be quick. I could probably do it in a day. What? Right? I've tamed my nervous system. And that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight, because I think living in the end result isn't what people think it is. They think living in the end result is, going on Rodeo Drive with a credit card and pretending they're wealthy and getting out of a limo and going shopping and at some high-end boutique and wearing fancy perfume and getting their hair done and, like looking like a Kardashian or something in that lifestyle. Well, if you're struggling to pay rent, that's too big a leap. But what can you do from where you are to be in the nervous system that has what you want, like just your rent being paid, be realistic. Yeah, that's not realistic. Be realistic in the sense of, this is where it's a game. And that's why Helene called it the name it and claim it game, because we're supposed to play and have fun with it. That's the other thing. This isn't a chore, it's a game. She didn't call any problems she had problems. She called them projects. Oh, I'm working on I got a new project. That sounds more fun and exciting. Ooh, what are you working on? Right? Just like a craft project. Someone on Instagram said Colette Barron. Oh, it's Colette Barron Reed. And I'll type that into here too, so you guys can go follow her. She's fantastic, and she has a really good YouTube channel. She's the #1 Oracle card creator. Like, I think her Oracle card deck, the one it's in a red package, is the #1 selling Oracle card deck of all time. I believe. It could be wrong, but I thought I heard that somewhere. Let me see if there's any other questions on Instagram. No. So that's what I want everybody to do, is start to become an observer and to slowly get your nervous system ready for the goal that you want to manifest. And I put release attachment on the thumbnail for the video because you also don't need to know where it comes from. Like, what does 10xing my business look like? I don't know. Is it because I sell more books? Is it because somebody options the books and does a movie about Helene's life, which I think should happen, by the way, because I think it'd be a cool movie. Everybody thinks the prize winner of Defiance Ohio is about her. No, it's not. That was Evelyn Ryan, who was also awesome. But right? Do I end up purchasing the rights to a new author suddenly and start publishing their books too? Does I'm working on the Italian edition. Does the Italian edition suddenly become a bestseller in Italy, and I get flown over to Italy, and now I'm teaching workshops in Italian? I don't speak Italian. Maybe I have a translator. I don't know. 10x could be anything, right? I'm not shutting the door to whatever that could be. Maybe I make a Helene Hansel Oracle card deck for the name it and claim it game. I don't know. Anything could happen, right? So I'm not shutting any doors onto what 10x looks like. But that's what I'm setting myself up for. So if you have a goal like, hey, I want to move out of this apartment and I want to buy a house, but you're like, I don't know where I'm going to get the money from. I don't know how I can afford a house. I don't know where I want to live. Don't worry about that. Just focus on getting ready and seeing yourself in a house. So start going through your cupboards, get rid of stuff you don't want to move, tidy up the current house that you have. Maybe start looking at real estate listings and getting a feel of what you'd like. If you've never owned a house before, start investigating what it involves. Like, now you're going to have to get a mower. Maybe you can start practicing mowing a friend's lawn so you can get a feel of what home ownership's like, or helping them in their garden. So when you have a flower garden, you know what to do. And that's a fun way to spend time with your friends and learn something new and get a feel of what it's like to be a homeowner with a garden. What else could, go look at open houses. Oh, I really hate it when this is in the layout. Okay, so when I want my own house, I definitely want to make sure it has this in it. So now you can start to make the list. Okay. Oh, I don't want a split level because I want all the bedrooms upstairs. I don't want one of the ones downstairs because I want my kids near me. Okay. Add that onto the list. My mom, who doesn't walk very well, is going to live with us. So I better start looking at bungalows. So you can start to, get ready for it. Even though you live in an apartment and have no idea how you're ever going to afford a house, don't worry about that. Focus on the house. Start getting your nervous system ready for it. Start figuring out what you want and take a little bit of action. It doesn't have to be a huge leap every day. It can be one little thing every day. One little thing. I've been cleaning out the house, actually, myself. I'm like, our house was getting a little bogged down. So I've been picking something every day. Today was the bottle cupboard. How many of us have way too many portable bottles, cups, like thermoses, all that stuff? Okay, which ones do I really want to keep? And of course, being a sweepstaker, you know how many of those I won? Most of them. I love them. Some of the older ones are gone. But I won some emoji cups this summer from Coke. I really liked the one I got from Oreo. I kept that. Right? I won a big, Simply Modern. It's kind of like the Stanleys, but it's called Simply Modern. I won that at one of the conventions. So I loved it. So I kept that, it's often the little things that make the most difference. Yeah. So I've been going through the house, and it started with this office because I thought, well, if I'm going to have a library and I have to move some of these things from the office, what am I taking? Because this office is a big mess. Let's start going through that, right? Unfortunately, a lot of it is office supplies and things. I can't really get rid of them because I'm using them, like mailers and extra copies of books. Like I have a trunk in the living room. It used to be my childhood toy chest, but it's full of inventory right now. It's all my book inventory. So if you win a book from me, I go there and move the plant off it. I open it up and pull out a book. I mail it to you. It'd be nice if the inventory wasn't in the trunk. That kind of thing. So anyway, so we're clear. I've been clearing out the office. I cleared, and then I kept going. I cleared out my clothes closet. I cleared out the bathroom drawers. I cleared out the linen closet. I'm slowly working on the cupboards in the kitchen. I want to work on the laundry room, maybe next weekend, that kind of thing. And it also shifts the energy, the feng shui in the house. So it unsticks some of the energy in the house that gets stagnant. So that's the other reason it's important to do these things. Anyway, I'm way over. I've talked on too many subjects, but you guys get the idea. I'm so excited to see what you come back with and tell me your stories of, hey, I took these tiny steps every day for several months and look what manifested. Now, technically, you could do this overnight, right? There is no time, and some people can just switch their mindset like that. Just like somebody had written me and said, hey, I read the Silva Method book and I mastered Jose's techniques and I got it right away and I've been manifesting all the things I wanted. And I'm like, that's great. I read his book. Although reading his book, I say changed my life, but it was taking the course because I learned better in person from sitting there in the class, focused attention, and doing the group meditations, because then you're in the field of everybody else. So my meditations are better in a group setting. Like, they're okay on my own. I'd like to get them to be the same, but right now they're better in a group setting. So I do better taking things in person. That's why when I did Helene's Audible books, I learned new things and I heard new things because I was speaking them into existence. So I highly recommend you read your books out loud. Read it first and then read it again to yourself out loud. You're going to hear totally new things. It's crazy. So do those things and then report back, because I think it's Rumi that said this. Oh, I know all these great quotes and then I keep forgetting who said them. And I'm going to get comments after, oh no, it was this person. Then I won't forget. I think it was Rumi that said, we're basically just all walking each other home. So I want you guys to come back and message me and let me know how on this little short part of the journey together that we are walking each other home. Because although you're learning from me, I am actually learning from you when you report back. And that's how it works. So I'm so glad you stayed and listened for a crazy extra hour. And I hope it helped, because I want you guys to all be successful too. And that just makes my heart sing. It's like when people win contests after I taught them how to win and they get so excited and they message me and say, oh my God, I won my first prize of this and that and the other thing. And I'm so excited for them. And I want to do the same thing in the metaphysical world. Like, oh, I manifested that job, or I met my sweetie, or I found the perfect apartment, or even something simpler like, ooh, the couch I always wanted was on sale and I got it for an amazing price because I was watching and I just knew, that kind of thing. Anyway, thanks. And I look forward to talking to you guys at the end of December, because we're going to talk about 2026, right? Everybody sets those resolutions, but we're going to talk about how to have success in the next year. And you have a whole year to do it. It's not going to be January at the gym. So that's what we're going to talk about next month. In the meantime, I should have done this ages ago, but I'm going to do all the social media things, like, follow, save this post, share it with your friends, all the things. And I will talk to you next month. Meanwhile, you can find me I like doing a lot of